colleagues, good day. Allow me to greet you on this presentation on project of distance learning for improving quality and reducing inequality in Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Mongolia. I am Yildiz Dolbekova. I'm the team leader of the project. I see 95 people have signed up for the participation. I think these are representatives of international and organization experts, researchers, teachers, administrators in the education area. We have also prepared. We also have online participants. We are very glad that our project team, Kyrgyzstan, we have today the online specialist partnership. Я оттуда слышу. И с компьютера, может, они... Manager on knowledge management, KIX EEP. I greet you. Our event is taking place in the Russian language. We have the invitation into yes, the record will be available on the YouTube channel. Dear participants, as you know, the pandemics, COVID-19, and the ensuing global crisis has seriously exacerbated the situation and caused big problem in the area of education in the whole country. Central Asian region is not an exception, and it's introduced issues of digitalization. The course to digitalization to these countries was much before the pandemics, but there was a forced transfer to the online learning during the lockdown in Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Mongolia. And the long time vacation, this required complex measures. It also caused, it also bared open the problems and also identified the points of growth. This is the first experience of online learning. It gave a valuable experience and requires big food for thought for further analysis for advancing digitalization of school learning. Key words today of our event is distant learning, online learning, digitalization, school learning, ICT competencies of teachers, innovations. The focus of the attention is teachers, students, and parents. Please allow me to shift to the official part of our event. The greeting words are presented to Yulia Levin. She will join us online, manager on knowledge management of KIX EOP project. Hello, do you hear me? Yes, we hear you well, Yulia. Very good. Good day. I'm very glad, dear colleagues. My name is Yulia Levina. I'm deeply acknowledged, delighted to speak on this presentation of the final presentation of the project for advancing the project for improving quality. I am KIX Europe for Europe, Central Asia, and Pacific region. KIX is a part of the global partnership in the area of education, and KIX is about exchange and of knowledge and innovations. The very initiative is devoted for increasing the exchange of experience between the countries, and at the same time for sharing the results, findings of research for shaping the education policy and holding reforms. This project led by the consortium of 3 organizations, Taalim-Forum, Nahita, and nomadic life preservation. I think important point is that this consortium is worked shoulder to shoulder with other international organizations as a grant receiver of KICS, and it marks unique advantages and contribution of research efforts. It their work is not only good for local, but it designates key points for future and valuable for national organizations in the area of education. I I also want to um, use the opportunity to express a sincere thankful gratitude to Taalim-Forum for their experience, which made our gigs more rich. Your valuable ideas, especially on the conferences on policy and innovation, and and significant improving of qualification of teachers. It's also notable to mark your contribution for professional development of teachers in the scale of Kyrgyzstan, which you suggested in the innovation strategies, in the increasing professional skills of teachers, especially in rural areas, using ICT. I'd like to note that this project demonstrated potential of applied research, making it more accessible and effective, especially for students in the remote areas. Addressing the problems of inequality of education, you made a solid foundation for future of the education in Kyrgyzstan. The findings of the research shows how to improve the quality of education, effectiveness of distant learning, and see the guidelines for decision makers and policymakers. I think especially importance is paid for expanding skills of teachers, and it allows to create a dynamic environment for teaching. I'd like to sincerely thank all of you for participation, for your interest and your big efforts, which contributed to successful end of the project and for laid foundation for equality and good education in the future. Thank you very much. I'm very looking forward to listening to the findings of the research. Thank you. Thank you for greetings, dear Yulia. We are very happy to hear yours. The next remarks go to Mrs. Lira Amanbayeva Samukbayeva, Deputy Minister of Education and Science in the Kyrgyz Republic. Good day, dear colleagues. I'm very delighted to see all of you at this very important event for you. We looked forward for it very much. Digitalization in education in the framework of a larger project on changing school system, which we are planning in the ministry. We've laid three important tasks, which we hope to get as a result of our all projects. The first one task is assistance to teachers. In other ways, we should use all technologies and innovations for making the life of teachers easier, making their reports easier, and for finding the necessary information and for self-learning. The second task about digitalization is automatization of managerial processes. It means that everything related to administrating schools, universities, and kindergartens, enrollment to schools, and forming statistical data and analytical data, this should be much easier and more comfortable with the use of technology. And third task is improving the quality and content of education. We are It means that using of technology, we got access to ocean of information, which are available in the English language. And thanks to the artificial intelligence, we have multiple and hundreds of assistants to teachers, assistants. Everything is accessible now in the English language, but we have a team who are a team who are working about the artificial intelligence to the Kyrgyz language, and all this should be updated. We think with the help of civil society and our experts who have a unique knowledge in this area. Have experience in not only creating but also introducing, because introducing is always a complex thing, because it is about increasing qualification of teachers. I look forward for support on your part. Thank you for the report prepared by the Public Foundation Taalim-Forum. It always helps us to orient in the time and space. And I thank all of you for your participation. If there will be any questions to me during the course of the event, I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you. Thank you for warm remarks. I think we will turn to you and during the course of the event. I think the audience will have questions. Dear audience, we start our presentation. We named our presentation School Education in Kyrgyzstan, Readiness to Digital Learning. This presentation became possible to the support of this research project became possible thanks to the global partnership in the education purposes, GPE, which is implementing program on exchange of experience and innovation, KIX, together with the Center of Research, IDXC Canada. The structure of our presentation is the following. The key findings of the research, it includes the readiness of teachers and students to distant learning, specific vulnerabilities and innovations, and in the end, we will share the main recommendations. The full name of the project is the following. Promoting innovative approaches in distance education to improve access and reduce inequality in education in Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, and Tajikistan. This project is implemented by the consortium of 3 organizations. All the 3 organizations have rather solid experience in developing educational products, implementing educational projects, and working in remote, mountainous, and steppe regions of their countries. We are glad that the country coordinators are here with us in the hall and online. And we also have the leaders of the research groups who will be ready, who are open to answer any questions in the end. The name of the organizations are Taalim-Forum is the leading organization. It's a Kyrgyzstan based and nomadic nature conservation. It works in Mongolia, and Anahita, non-profit organization from Tajikistan. The geography of the research, as we mentioned, the 3 countries, as we can visually demonstrate our location. On this map, we can see that Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan are the brotherly and neighboring and bordering countries. we share historical and cultural problems and similar political, social, and economic development. We have we share a border, and we have similar proportion of the rural and urban population. Gender population problem are the same, and labor migration, and everything, all the legacies we have inherited from the Soviet Union is the same, and we have similar present. Then Kyrgyzstan and Mongolia share cultural legacy and nomadic traditions, cultural nomadic culture. You can see that Mongolia is a little bit farther away from us, but its territory is rather large. It is about 8 times larger than that of Kyrgyzstan. And in Kyrgyzstan, and both in Kyrgyzstan and in Mongolia, both field works were covered all the regions. Some provinces of our country were logistically difficult. Mongolia was large, and it required certain efforts in coordinating. As to Tajikistan, we had some limitations at the stage of quantitative research. These were independent on us. As a result, we couldn't do the research in Gorno-Badakhshan Autonomous Region, and in general, there was a coverage of the whole country. The methodology. The research used a three-stage methodology of data collection. First one is desk study, analysis of strategy, barriers in the organization of the learning process, innovations, and best practices during the distant learning. Second one is the qualitative research. This is about the process of distant learning, and dividing the stakeholders into different groups. On the second stage, during the qualitative research methodology, we had focus group discussions. It's 62 focus groups hold, and participant observation. Each 8 in Kyrgyzstan. The researchers lived in families where school students reside. We had deep interviews. We had 113 in the whole, but 44 in Kyrgyzstan. Both the administrators and parents and providers of internet services. Anket surveys were held for perception of the experience of learning. About the format of learning, and we measured the index of preparedness, and also the preparedness for innovations, and using the experience for further practice. The survey covered 6,465 countries in all three countries. 3,577 in Kyrgyzstan, 898 countries in teachers, and in Kyrgyzstan in general, this survey included 180. In total, it was 387. Our research questions. We have basically two groups of questions. The first one was about the specific vulnerabilities of certain groups which were learning in the distance learning. To what extent it was different, this experience, and what kind of new types of vulnerabilities exist. The second group was about innovations and innovation practices and innovation approaches. And as questions, the following questions were posed. What is innovation? Who creates them? And what practices can be scaled up?
Research stages. We started with desk research. Here I would like to point out that our questions that we prepared, they were reviewed by a research panel to meet the international standards. They were approved by the Research Review Board. At the American University of Central Asia. So it was twice reviewed by the Research Review Board. At each stage of the research, we received support from the Minister of Education and Science of the Kyrgyz Republic, as well as the Minister of Education of Tajikistan. We didn't require an official letter from Mongolia, since the research was done in partnership and the permission of the National Institute that carries out research in education, and it's under the Ministry of Education. At each stage, the preliminary research findings were discussed, and now we had discussions last year in 2022, 2023, and along with these, we had presentations for key stakeholders, and I would like to point out our joint working level meeting with the Minister of Education and Science of the Kyrgyz Republic. And in December of the last year, there was a separate meeting where we presented the research findings. We discussed them, and we passed on our recommendations to the Minister of Education. And taking advantage of the situation, we would like to thank the Minister of Education and Science of the Kyrgyz Republic for being open. And we had opportunities to have open, discussions, exchange of ideas. We shared our key research findings for further promotion. And as for 2024, we published you have copies of the reports. You're looking through them. There will be country reports separately for each country. There will be separate policy briefs for each country. All of them will be published, printed, and we will make them available on our website. We will also try to share them on other websites, but we will let you know about that separately. So we will have a final country report. And one of the main directions of our work was actualizing this topic and involving all the stakeholders during carrying out our research. We had over 20 research events, activities, and our objective was to actualize the new agenda, to form a new agenda on educational strategies, innovations, role of the teacher in the era of digitization of education, ICT competences of teachers. And for that purpose, we created various platforms. And in the 3 countries, over 800 people participated in those platforms. Besides actualizing the agenda within each country, we also carried out a big volume of work and discussed the preliminary findings of our research on the international level, at international forums. For instance, in 2022, there was only one presentation about the research that is being carried out in Central Asia. In 2023, we had a separate session. with 5, presentations on each country separately. At this stage of work, it's very at that stage of work, it was very important to develop online materials. 3 online courses were on digital skills of teachers were developed and tested at 12 workshops with participation of 300 teachers, Methodists, and students in 3 countries. And today we are happy to state that the material that we developed by the Kyrgyz team online course e-Oku was approved and it's available on the website of the Kyrgyz National Teacher Training Institute. And the Mongolian course is also available on the Metle Mongolian platform, national platform. It's available online. The interactive course developed by Tajik team was recommended by the Tajik Teacher Training Institute for use. The project team delivered over 10 presentations on national, international, global forums and conferences. And we also had a presentation at the International Comparative Education Society in US. Besides, last year, the Global School Forum 2030, the case of involvement of stakeholders and actualizing of the topic of digitalization was presented at the Global School Forum, which took place in Portugal. And the Global Schools Forum will be hosted by Kyrgyzstan this year. We signed inked memorandums of understanding with Naren State University, with the National Teacher Training Institute, and our project team in Tajikistan signed an MOU with the Center for Development of Trainings for Teachers. 2 exchange trips were done for employees of the Ministry of Education of Mongolia. We hosted them in Kyrgyzstan. And today 5 scholarly research papers were published in scientific journals. And we expect the number of these scholarly publications to increase. Over 350 publications were made. They were podcasts, were very popular. A lecture delivered by our international consultant from the McGill University from Canada on artificial intelligence was translated into Kyrgyz, Tajik, and Mongolian, and it was very popular. And our Mongol colleagues uploaded this presentation on their national platform, Metle. The presentation was on how AI advancements in AI could be used in education. So my colleagues today will continue with the presentation. Ms. Almagul Osmonova. Thank you. I'm very glad to be speaking today at the final event. I would like to continue the presentation, our joint presentation, and to talk about the readiness of teachers and learners for distance education. Our research in general showed that both teachers and learners evaluated their experience in distance education rather negative. And there were a lot of factors, including the limited access to technologies, internet, computers, low connection of internet. In the research, we tried to disclose the various perspectives. For instance, which types of learning activities were the most difficult to form in distance education format. The most difficult teachers responded as independent work skills. In this regard, the overwhelming majority of teachers, about 83%, they agree to a varying degree that distance learning significantly lowered the knowledge of students. And 73% of teachers, they said that they couldn't control the independent work performed by students. And 48% noted they noted that it required much more time to prepare for lessons, to check assignments as the key experience in distance education. 86% of teachers agreed that the workload in distance education was high, and 91% noted that they ended up spending more time on lesson preparation compared to traditional teaching. The research demonstrated that during distance education, half or the majority of teachers didn't widely use electronic resources that are available on the internet. And we listed the most popular ones. And the mostly primary grade teachers, they used the national IBLIM program. But after the end of the pandemic lockdown, only 44% of teachers, they started using IBLIM compared to 52% during the pandemic. National Electronic Library was less popular. Then the ministry developed a special platform called Digital Lessons on Arif Sabak. And all the online lessons, video lessons that were developed, that were taped, were uploaded on this platform. However, after the pandemic, this platform also wasn't updated. Not many teachers started using it after the pandemic. And at the moment, the ministry is working on developing a new national platform. And I think we will have a chance to discuss this development. During the research, we also tried to find out how often teachers use online instruments, tools, and services. As a result, we saw that over 60% of teachers use Google Class, Microsoft Teams, and such video conferencing software as Zoom and Skype were very popular. So we believe it was rather Zoom. And as for video hosting services, YouTube was very popular. The research identified self-assessment of ICT competencies of teachers. We paid a lot of attention on this topic. As a result of survey, we received data which showed that they highly assessed their ICT competencies. However, the subjective assessment of teachers, they significantly differ from the assessment given by students on the use of internet services. Out of the listed services, 91% noted WhatsApp, 59% Zoom. Notwithstanding the rather high indexes of these ICT competence of teachers, just slightly over half of teachers, 56%, noted that they practice with students, work with feedback platforms with feedback mechanisms. electronic services, file exchange services, Google Docs, Google Drive. Only 18% of teachers they can use these platforms. There are also discrepancies in the assessment of the online synchronous education. 69% of students they noted they are aware of those tools. According to teachers, only 22% of students, learners were active during distance education. 35% of teachers said that programs and curricula help them to accomplish their lesson plans, their objectives. 35% of learners noted they had constant access to learning materials, and 87% of students they had motivation to learn online than compared to traditional mode of education. As for the opinion of students, less than half of students assessed their performance as good, 28% as satisfactory, and only 20% of students noted that they liked online lessons. And in general, 86% of learners and 88% of teachers preferred traditional format to distance education format. As part of the research, we developed an index of readiness for distance education based on the tools and the experience of other countries. We adapted the methodology, and based on that, we calculated the index of readiness. It's based on 5 factors: online learning skills and developing courses, digital communication, basic computer literacy, advanced computer literacy, and use of learning management systems. And as we see on all indexes, we received pretty high indexes. And if we compare it with the countries of the indexes, we also received in the other countries high indexes. And 64% of students were ready for distance education in Mongolia. And here we have the self-assessment of learners' readiness for distance education is slightly lower compared to teachers, but nevertheless, it's very high general index of readiness for distance education among teachers is 72% and 65% among learners, students. The research also revealed that certain factors have impact on the teacher readiness for distance education, including their age, the experience. The higher the age, the longer the experience, the lower the readiness, as well as subject specialization also impacted readiness, as well as effective communication with learners and their parents, as well as taking teacher training, online courses, and satisfaction with the online experience. And arts teachers, STEM teachers, and music teachers, primary grade teachers, assess their readiness for distance education is pretty low, whereas arts, STEM, music teachers, they assess their readiness as pretty high. Well, the primary grade teachers, low assessment of readiness is apparently because they are not well versed in the use of ICT technologies. They don't have well developed digital skills. and plus the parents of the primary grade students, they may not be as involved in their education. As for the regional perspective, the highest index of the readiness of teacher readiness is in Naren district, and the lowest in Jalalabad province. I would like to emphasize that it's just a self-reported, self-assessment of teachers. 86%, the highest self-assessment of students in Naren, and 56% for students in Osh. The research demonstrated
on the technical means of education, the factor of pupils' independent work, about the level of technology usage skills depends on the skills of teacher skills. It requires the need for free usage of technology by students. Learning the preparedness of pupils, students during pandemic shows that introducing the online format not always met the needs and objectives of learning, considering the poor technological and technical the furnishing of teachers and the schools. The methodology revealed that there was poor effective measures of the Ministry of Education was not due for the shift of the distant learning. These are about key challenges. We got a very positive and high index of preparedness of teachers and students to distant learning, but at the same time, we have we saw that the preference of students and teachers is still given to traditional offline learning. It means that today the professional skills of teachers is in close link with the ICT competences of teachers. Today, teachers are often going through various trainings online, but at the same time, our research has shown that the system of increasing qualification of teachers is still lagging behind from the tasks it has noted. It doesn't fill up the need for adequate usage of all opportunities of the digital environment. We also made analysis of in pedagogical universities, pedagogical colleges, which also showed that in universities there's a very low flexibility to changing of the program, which would meet the modern challenges and requirements of the modern educational environment. So as I said, along with the high index of preparation, we have a low interest to shift to digital. It indicates that today overwhelming majority of teachers acknowledging the need and importance of technology as a challenge and need of modern technology, but at the same time in practice they are still encountering with many problems. Therefore, we have to pay many efforts both from institutions who are preparing teachers and institutions for increasing qualification and also from the teachers themselves. Now I give the floor to Chinara Omrgulova, specialist on monitoring and evaluation. Specific vulnerabilities. Hello, dear colleagues and participants. I'm very glad to meet you. Let me proceed about specific vulnerabilities in the conditions of distant learning. Speaking about the factors of vulnerability, despite the colossal efforts of the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Kyrgyz Academy of Education for keeping the access to education in the context of pandemics and lockdown, the vulnerability of teachers and students have increased. It is mostly in the context of lockdown and quarantine, inequality in access to internet, access to books, and level of their ICT skills. Besides that, holding classes in distant uh, learning have disclosed many problems, and there was many much problems voiced from the society. We cannot provide good quality if the teachers are in vulnerable situation together with their teachers and students. The COVID-19 has naked the inadequate pedagogical skills. It is organizational of learning process, subject qualification of teachers. The need to change the methodology was visible. Also, ICT competences were not enough. There were no enough competences for shifting to ICT. It increased the alertness and the dissatisfaction by the teachers. As I said, 52% of 56% of teachers have noted this fact, and 61% were uh, uh, discontented by teachers. About the load, the teachers had to provide measures of security for students during this study with their parents and their legal guardians to overcome the vulnerabilities, increase their professional skills on using the messengers and using computers and sending and receiving homeworks. 91% have of teachers noted that they spent more time for preparing for classes. 86% spoke about the increasing load to their work. They also had to use their personal time and personal family resources to meet the needs of their learning process. 40% of teachers have noted. Also, there was conflict in professional and in family contexts. They were while teaching their students, they were depriving the time from their families and and children. Also, there was negative factors, consequences for their health, and there was a professional burnout, and um, many teachers who are in a study have noted that also 56% of teachers noted concerns for the non-completion of the program of the study, and due to poor working conditions, and also because there was no single platform for educational process, all as classes, all problems became bare opened, uh, both for the pupils, the students, and the teachers. Naturally, the criticism has surged from parents. It increased the vulnerability for teachers. In the spring of 2023, 90 or 30% of teachers still don't have access to internet, and many teachers still don't have an internet at home. The vulnerability of teachers is related to many problems of communication and organization of learning and providing safety and security for students. It was also related to lack of methodological support and methodologically lack of clarity and the general understanding of how the online format works. Speaking about the vulnerabilities of students in the conditions of in the conditions of pandemic, we have to note that many parents, teachers noted that most vulnerable are the primary school pupils, and Minister of Education, understanding this vulnerability, uh, uh, noted this fact, and certain classes had to do physical classes, but nevertheless, the elementary school pupils ended up in very vulnerable situation because they needed more tactile connection and contact with teachers and parents. Also, the children in living in remote areas as well in the outskirts of large cities were in a problem. Also, they were subject to problems with the digital gap. Also, children studying in outskirts of Bishkek, they are not. They are similarly vulnerable in as the remote regions, and it means that these children didn't have their circle of their classmates with whom they could keep communication. Also, children studying in minority languages were under vulnerability. Uh, Children in the minority languages went problems because they didn't have any access to learning materials. Also, uh, children whose mothers have a low level of education are also in vulnerable situation, and children uh, because of the lack of motivation, they dropped out of school after the pandemic. We have to pay attention to this group of pupils. Speaking about speaking about the home work, household work and study, the students noted that they got new household responsibilities. They had to care for younger siblings and of, of 41% of girls and 7% of boys said also they had take care of the sick family members. Another one was it's doing homework, although it corresponds with traditional division of labor. Mm, but the specific, usually older brothers and brothers and sisters had to replace teachers and provide access to internet and working condition of PC, and they were practically doing the work of teachers. The division of labor matches with the gender roles. For example, cleaning 36% of boys and 24% of girls have less time to prepare. 31 and 41% of boys completed their caring for household, and 58% and 47% of boys were teaching their younger siblings, and 10% of boys and 8% of girls cared for the sick family members. About doing homework, 34% of boys and 48% of girls spent more time preparing in the context of distant learning. 36% of boys and 24% of girls have less time to prepare, and 29% of girls and 40% of boys completed less than half of their homework. And we have to note this gender specific way. The boys were more inclined, they had more conditions to do their homeworks. Boys more time than girls, no, more time they make money for, they earn money together with parents. In ethnic minorities, mothers usually don't have education, or they have low level of education, and it reflected, it impacted their success. Speaking about resources to education, as I noted, the resources were provided by fragmented efforts of donors. We have to note that because of the isolation, there was a lot of scandals and conflicts in the families, because there was shortage of resources, and even the memory size of mobile phones was an issue, and it impacted both the children and parents. Violence to children took place inside the family and also online. We have revealed this in focus group discussions. For some parents acknowledged that 64% of parents, they said they had to shout or be aggressive to their children. Access to technical devices. Access to technical devices was both similar to pre-COVID. Some 98% got during COVID, and 90% they don't have access to smartphone. 31% had access to computers, and 13% got it during COVID, and 52% still don't have a personal computer or a tablet. As I noted, in our research, we studied the problem of vulnerabilities of ethnic minorities, and as I noted above, there was a shortage of learning materials and technical problems, and through the prism of general preparation of preparedness, the their self evaluation was lower in Uzbek and Tajik languages of learning, and access to educational resources. Some classes were placed in the Uzbek language. In the Uzbek Tajik language, there was none. despite the fact that international organizations are providing support in translating the content into the minority languages. And about access to devices, first time, thanks to the distant learning, uh, students from religious backgrounds and ethnic minorities have access to technology for the first time due to the distant education. Factors of remote remoteness and social isolation factors. Geographical remoteness limits access to the internet and learning. The farther they are from the center, the more they have a problem with access to electricity, internet. And despite the fact that ministry is putting efforts for providers, internet providers, they were providing mobile credits for the internet. And also, as I noted, there was social isolation. Students
talking about ethnic minorities who ended up without access to internet and learning materials. They also found themselves in the so-called social isolation. So these factors, we have to pay attention to these factors in order to ensure quality of education and as well as inclusion in the educational processes. And speaking about the distance education, it should be noted, we should also note the positive aspects of education, the factors that influence. First of all, learners, students received access to technology. For the first time, they began working, they learned working in teams. Many noted, about 20% of learners noted that thanks to the distance education technologies, they managed to avoid difficult situations in school, including racketeering. And what conclusions can we make? The specific thing about vulnerability is that in distance education is primarily connected to a digital gap, which reinforce the traditional vulnerabilities of the educational process participants, including teachers and school administrators. Talking about vulnerability, they perceive these vulnerabilities as stable categories, but we saw speaking about the vulnerabilities related to access to technology, that these problems are solvable, that they can be solved with effective management. And these aspects, they are not constant. We can solve them. Besides the inequality and access to internet, technology and platforms in distance education, digital resources, lack of content for learning materials was a specific thing about vulnerability. First, lack of methodological resources in distance education format. It considerably impacted vulnerability of learners. For those with students with disabilities, learners with disabilities, as well as emotional isolation became added onto the vulnerabilities of learners and teachers during the distance education.
Как вы помните, вторая группа вопросов
As you recall, the second group of questions dealt with innovation during distance education, how we understand, everything that happened during the pandemic, during COVID, during distance education, online education was practically connected to innovations. And my colleagues already mentioned, and everyone present in this room, you well know how much was done, how many efforts were expended to ensure, effective reaction to the situation, to the unfolding developments, to provide fast solutions. So all of these were innovations. The entire country acted as a lab. So all kind of initiatives were emerging and being implemented. During the desk research, we analyzed all the initiatives. We have this detailed analysis available on our website. And we had, a very good picture. A lot of materials were created. What will be done? What should be done about those materials? Will they be processed? Will it be processed into new formats? The question is whether this huge volume of work will continue making use of these materials. Back then, we thought it was just a one-time event, but now to ensure continuity of education, online education, distance education is becoming a sort of a magic wand to ensure continuity of education. But at the same time, we forget about the second the moment that within the process of digitalization, we should always pay attention to quality, the quality services, access to services. And we observe a very interesting moment along with the initiatives, the responses by the Minister of Education. They were also, alongside the responses of the Minister of Education, there were also private initiatives coming from public organizations. And if we take Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan is specific, particular in Central Asia, because most of the initiatives, they were volunteer-led. They were created by volunteers, by enthusiasts. A lot of these initiatives, they are continuing currently. And during the research, and other initiatives and approach were proposed to solve the issues that emerged during the pandemic. And the representatives of those initiative groups and volunteers are present today, and we are happy to see them. It's an online school, Mugalim, was created by a group of volunteers. It's an educational platform that offered flexible training for teachers. It proposed very topical content, relevant content for teachers, which was available, accessible through mobile apps. And within a short period of time, they developed 5 courses. 1,500 teachers, they took those courses within a short period of time. Digital Teacher Sanarip Mugalim Educational Center, an initiative developed to assist teachers from remote areas. As we see with this case, initiatives, they do not have to come from, originate from big cities, from urban areas. This initiative came from remote rural areas. So the value of this learning center, and today it transformed into an academy, digital teacher. It actualizes such issues as networking, motivation to teach, to learn, and how to develop leadership skills among teachers. Khan Academy in Kyrgyzstan became prominent in Kyrgyzstan, although it started as a private initiative. And the learning materials of the Khan Academy, of the global platform, were translated into Kyrgyz language. And at the moment, there are a lot of trained teachers, and there are people who continue working on translating the learning materials of the Khan Academy in Kyrgyzstan. Online school, online mektep is a volunteer movement consisting both of university faculty, school teachers, and experts, especially during initial stages of distance education. 48 webinars were conducted, and the number of those who participated in those webinars, there were 15,000 teachers and education specialists participated in those webinars, and it was a timely methodological support. Online mektep learning platform founded at Creative Talim Educational Complex. This portal with multimedia lessons was developed before the pandemic, and it's particular because it constantly updated, expanded, and the courses are popular among teachers from rural areas. They actively work with the teachers in the regions. They go out to the regions, do outreach, and they demonstrate a sustainable model of innovative school and acts as a hub of innovative knowledge in Kyrgyzstan. So what we see in general, we see maturity, high level of expert community, intellectual capacity, which could be used and should be used to expedite and integrate the digital transformation in school education. As for the results of the survey regarding the innovation, teachers, they had a difficulty in understanding the notion of innovation, and they gave very generalized response. And they associated innovation, the concept of innovation, with various practices about creativity, showing various films, going on excursions, field trips, or using the material that was developed by innovative schools and tested, and they could also use those learning materials. If you see at the data, teachers enthusiastically noted that they use innovations. Only 21% of teachers, they noted they did not use any innovations. They practiced teaching, but the rest noted how exactly they use the innovations. We observed this pretty, high assessment and readiness of teachers to use innovations in their teaching, and responding to the question what they lack, what conditions they need. They noted the barriers to integration of innovation is primarily lack of funding, lack of equipment. 39% of teachers noted such a problem as parents are not motivated to work to study with their students and to use some innovative approach. And in general, what is the general picture? There is a demand, high demand for innovations in our society. It's related to the digitalization efforts the advent of the AI. It's related to our strategic national programs, strategies, concepts. It's related to the need for growing our economy. And today we do not imagine how we can move forward without innovations. But at the same time, we would like to point out that the understanding of innovations among respondents is rather is, is rather very average, and innovations could be used to they understand that innovations could be used to develop materials to expand access. Since we're talking about vulnerabilities, that we need more uh, motivation of involvement of parents in the education of their primary grade students. That we talk about lack of materials to use electronic resources by ethnic minority groups. We talk about management. All these processes, they could be used for innovation. We consider innovation not only as using something new, as using equipment, technology, but also the use of innovation that will help organize the learning process to to change the methods, teaching methods, to change the atmosphere, to change the school itself with the advent of digitalization. Therefore, today here we noted the spheres for the use of innovation, areas of use, management of schools and educational process, development of digital platforms and educational materials. And it's very important to note not only their the development, but their implementation, integration, but also their updating. Without these components, otherwise these materials, they will quickly become outdated. And if we look at if everyone is enthusiastically responding that innovations are being used, then where are the areas? So what should be done in order to consolidate the use of innovations to make them sustainable? So there's a need in a certain type of conditions, atmosphere, a conceptual framework, so that everyone would be on the same wave, would have the same understanding of the concept of innovations. There wouldn't be discrepancies in understanding of innovations. Of course, it's a technical equipment is important, but it's much more important is to have the personnel, the people who will use that technology, that equipment, personnel that who can make use of this technology. Otherwise, it's impossible to promote these issues without this understanding. So today we have teachers who are initiative, who are enthusiastic, and they are using integrating innovations. However, they are leaving the public schools and working in private schools. And all the innovations are being used in private schools. And thanks to certain courses that are being offered, we have innovations being implemented. For instance, preparation for the national scholarship testing, developing certain skills, but the majority of schools, regrettably, they continue functioning in the traditional mode, in the outdated mode.
Now we now arrive at the recommendations. As you have seen, on the basis of their research, also other голос понять. А, это микрофон. Надо этот. In the system of education, as it was seen, we developed recommendations. Recommendations. These were handed out for consideration, and based on the second international conference, we passed it to the conference participants for the information of the ministry. And recommendations which are shown out in our report, they cover 5 key areas. It is the management area of digital area, developing of digital educational area, and cultivation of innovations, and increasing cooperation in the school environment. And these recommendations should bring to the improvement of quality of school learning and improving access to education among vulnerable groups. And we think that precisely the digital education area bears a big potential for vulnerable groups uh, who can reap the benefits of the digitalization. Uh, about the administering the education area, we heard that certain steps are being made about optimization and effective management in their education, and they are developing a roadmap. What are we aspiring to? Which achievements are we have to arrive at, and how we can measure them? It would be good to introduce automated digital system with the which has an independent measurement system, which would allow for further digitalization in where that system would allow adequate data collection, but it remains a problem for students. We have to put further efforts. We have to improve infrastructure. It is not enough to update and but it's also there's a need of personnel who can do technical accompaniment, will be conduits of digitalization. And we know that uh, in the schools there's a problem about specialists, and especially in remote areas, we need special attention. And we also spoke about the improving qualification and professional development. We have to shift to non-stop professional increase. It was 5 years update, but now it's 3 years. I think even 3 years is too long, because technologies and new approaches are taking place very quickly, and therefore we have to speak about create a more flexible system where teachers could independently increase their professional development, and digitalization is the answer. And also there's increase of demands to for modern teachers, such as technology and all that. But we should also think about overcoming psychological problems of teachers. We should also speak about the addressing the professional burnout of teachers. Now, also we have a group of the next group of recommendations is about cultivating it is about increasing effect. It's about we need a single conceptual framework. We have to create institutional mechanisms for revealing and scaling innovative practices in the pedagogical area. During the realization of our project, we always spoke a good example, good practices from our Mongolian experts, and in our recommendations, we spelled out that we would benefit from study Mongolia's experience of establishing an electronical school to increase access to quality education for boys and girls from remote rural areas. Also, not in pilot form, but in a full-time scale, they have a electronic platform. This Mongolian experience and information about it, and people who came from the Ministry of Education from Mongolia to our place. We had a meeting here so that we could benefit from their experience about how they set up this themselves. As we mentioned, innovations are seen as increasing opportunities for vulnerable groups. For example, for schools who are located in remote areas, we have to develop programs which include infrastructural support. We didn't see such effective structures who can effectively help address comprehensive issues about introducing and scaling up innovative approaches. Another thing is to support the best practices of self-organization, leadership, volunteering, networking among innovative teachers, and the association of subject teachers. This work has to be continued so that these inspiring examples should be at work, and we should develop leadership. Strengthen the role of parental mediation in the formation of digital literacy of students, especially in the primary grades, through the development of special training programs and school for parents. The next group of recommendations is for strengthening interactions with public organizations and private companies. This is expanding effective cooperation in conducting joint educational research. Our organization is an example for studying the needs of teachers and students, identifying problems and finding solutions for effective digitalization of education. Ms. Lira Mambayevna mentioned that they are open and glad to cooperate. In fact, in our framework of our project, it has worked. Expand public-private partnership in the development and implementation of digital solutions for the educational process, training programs to improve ICT competences. We saw the example of Kazakh problem. They on the example of Coursera, they translated them into the Kazakh language. The same thing. Our Mongolian colleagues were curious about how to use them for ethnic Kazakhs in Mongolia, and this is the partnership we are talking about. Also, learning programs, programs for improving ICT competencies for teachers, for adaptation and translation of learning resources into for the languages and ethnic minority languages. We have so far language materials in the Kyrgyz language and the languages of minorities. Provide joint development of educational resources for distant learning for children from vulnerable groups and with disabilities and those lacking access to the internet. This is about the offline format. And this is our concluding slide. We'd like to thank everyone for attention and taking the opportunity, we'd like to express our gratitude to Global Partnership on Education, KICS OEM, and virtually during the implementation of our project, there was much done for our project team in all the three countries to increase their knowledge, both on innovations and for on doing research and on analysis. This is became a big. Became like a completing a university. We also thank the Ministry of Education and its all structural divisions for constructive dialogue. We also thank our experts and consultants for cooperation. Also, taking opportunity of this moment. Our project partners from Mongolia and Tajikistan are online. Our partners are from 20 to 30 people. Uh, uh, these teams are taking place today, and they will be glad to get answers to their questions. We complete our presentation. You can upload for for all of us waking up, and we go to the session of questions and answers. Now you can raise your hands. We have assistants who can give you the microphone. Because we have a lot of people, it is a teamwork and many people in this process, and I try to delegate these questions to the relevant speakers. Thank you. Please, your questions. Thank you for such research, very important findings. Listening to the findings and recommendations, I thought there is a correlation with the research which we have done, national assessment of 4th and 8th classes grades. I also love teachers and I make big focus on teachers. There's one question speaking about the index of self-assessment of teachers. There is advanced and the basic level. I saw that in both of them there is 81%. How was the measurement done? That's my first question. And the second one about the same index. We'd like to hear the outcomes of other countries on the same, Mongolia and Tajikistan. What outcomes came up for the same index for the two countries? Can you present? Chinara Batraikeva. I'm the director of Center of Education and Learning. I'd like to ask Mikhrikula Blezova. She is here in the hall. She's our research. And can you say about the index? How was it formed? And answer the questions, please. Basically, this index is adapted from another research which we did. It was done in a number of countries, and it consists of 5 components. There are formula how to how to measure this, but basically it is basically to each answer there was a score and it was summarized. All the scores were summarized. I don't remember which sentences were there, but and you had another question, which why there is one similar scores. As Almagul mentioned, this is how people themselves ranked their own skills. When we got the outcomes and we saw such large skills, especially basic computer ones, basic and advanced, we were also very strongly surprised. But on the other hand, we understood that it is such a reflection of the fact of expectations of teachers. They feel this pressure that they should know this. Therefore, they just reflect those expectations that are formed in society in relation to their competence. This is like a pressure on them. Basically, they are working under such expectations and pressure. But about more about methodology is all part consistent in the report. Also, this database will be also disseminated, and a very detailed research that we used in the research.
Regarding Mongolia and Tajikistan, we ended up having very similar scores with Mongolia and Kyrgyzstan. I think Mongolia had slightly higher indexes scores, very interesting results. The same with Tajikistan. I think it requires very in-depth analysis, further research, study. Obviously, teachers act under huge pressure everywhere because they understand the society, the public requires a lot of them, has very high expectations of teachers. That's why, they try to meet those expectations. So there is huge pressure on the teachers everywhere. So it goes by default that teachers must be innovators. Everyone expects them to be innovators. Mihrigul, our researcher, emphasized that this is a self-assessment, self-evaluation of teachers. Maybe it's, inflated assessment. The entire research team, we agree that these were very high assessment evaluations. And Gulnara would like to add, the leader of the research group. Hello. I just want to point out that any, figures, they could be interpreted, any statistics could be interpreted differently. We use the discursive analysis framework in this regard. So the discourse in school education has normalized such demands towards teachers. It doesn't matter whether teacher resists internally. There will be figures that show that teachers didn't want to teach in distance education format. Teachers do not possess those ICT, competencies. They don't have those skills, but at the same time, no. But they assess themselves, their readiness as very, high. It doesn't mean they lie. It just they understand the new norm, and being part of the system, they have to meet this norm, the requirements. This is how we interpret it. If we chose a different framework, we would interpret it differently. Thank you, Gulnara. Next question. We can't compare it with Tajikistan. We couldn't get some average parameters because we didn't have a representative sample there, research there. As Yildiz already mentioned in the beginning, in Tajikistan, we were sealed off from Gorno-Badakhshan region. We couldn't access it. And as for the comparison in the report, we mainly compare Kyrgyzstan and Mongolia. Another question. Hello. Kulipa Akhmatov from Rural Development Fund. Hello, colleagues from Mongolia, from Tajikistan, if you are listening to me. Since we represent the organization that works in rural areas, we work on rural development. We are very glad that we have such an ambitious project, and I know very well the competency of this research team of this organization. This is a very good partnership because Mongolian organization is very experienced in the field of environmental research, ecological research, and I know that they are World Disney champions, a well recognized organization. As for Anahita from Tajikistan is also a very well established organization, and our organization is also a research organization. So we are very glad, happy to hear about your achievements, your success. We are glad that the Minister of Education was also involved in this project. So we hope that the findings will be integrated in practice. And over the pandemic, during the pandemic, I didn't know about other platforms, educational platforms, volunteer-led platforms that were assisting rural teachers from remote areas. And I know that, I personally know that our beneficiaries from rural areas, they benefited from your initiatives. So I would like to pass their thank you to you. And I know Gulnara for over 30 years. Thank you, Gulnara, for this, for your contribution. And I know that you have been working in this field for over 20 years. So thank you for the great results. I would like to thank the team. My name is Razia Sardabaeva from Musical School Abdrab. I would like to talk about the previous activities carried out during the pandemic. I know very well most of the team members. You have carried out a huge volume of work on collecting data, on analyzing the data. And I have some questions. This presentation made me think a lot, so I was constantly making notes, taking photos. First of all, I think that we could add religious communities to the vulnerable groups, because the Ustad Shakir Center for Traditional Music, which is an association of over 50 schools, conducts music lessons in regular schools from 1st to 7th grades, and we face the issue, the problem. A lot of children didn't have TV set at home, no internet, no phone, no smartphone. They didn't have Android phone in one of the city schools. And I'm not talking about remote areas, rural areas. It was a school in downtown, city. We had a student who didn't have a phone. And according to the deputy director for education, principal. The student came from a religious school, so the student was behind the program, and we chipped in and bought a smartphone for this student, fourth years, fourth grade student. And later we learned that this student's family left back to their community in the south, and we realized that this is not the only student, that they come from a religious community. So please expand your definition of vulnerable groups. Um, uh, then we, as musical community, music, arts, theater, teachers, students, we were a vulnerable group because we were not ready at all for the digital transformation and of digital transfer of knowledge, digital education. But then we learned to take photos, to make videos. We learned to conduct our musical lessons online. So it was a big experience for us. And as for the good examples, positive examples regarding the theater, um, you know, extracurricular activities, theater has offered as part of extracurricular activities. We did short films, video films, by students, how students are helping their parents, on a farm, sing songs. So it was a series of short video, and it had a component of music and theater, performing arts. And we have our colleague Bakat Akhmatov. He came up with the idea of training, of tuning Homus, Kyrgyz musical instrument. He helped parents who didn't have a musical education. He helped them tune their musical instruments online. So we received a huge experience. So I would like you to continue your activities and to include these two vulnerable communities. Thank you for the comment. It's a very good examples regarding vulnerability of religious communities. We do have them. It is a sensitive issue, and it was revealed during the research. There are a lot of such cases, such stories. I think that these stories should be recorded because they give a lot of experience, how we could, further develop our activities. Arabayev State, Kyrgyz State University, Mahabat Kukanova. Yeah, regrettably, we were not part of the project. We just learned about this project today at the presentation. I would like to thank you for the work you have done. I know that you're an organization with a big capacity. So my question is whether these research findings that you presented, whether it will be um, it will turn into a new project, into a new activity. Okay, in the city, students, they have opportunity to go to specialized schools, but how about students in rural areas, whether the project would continue its activities? Whatever we plan for this project, we have already carried out, we have completed. We had a small direction. We went to Arabayev University. We presented, we did an overview of the programs at Arabayev University, and Mr. Tashtanbek, it would be good if he could present on what we did at Arabayev, but in general, as what we planned for this project. As part of this project, we completed our activities. Well, at the moment, we don't know whether there will be a continuation of this project, but time will show. My name is Sartov Tashtanbay Esenovich. I'm a professor of the Kyrgyz State Technical University. I have been participating in this project as a member of the advisory council, as an expert in distance education. And before responding to this question, I would like to know that from the first days up until today, I'm an active participant of this project. I have participated in all project activities, and I was surprised to see how well you work, how a great team it is, consisting of 4 women and 1 man, and you carried out a big volume of work in all 3 countries. And on behalf of all the experts, I would like to thank you for the work you have done. Thank you. Please applaud to this team. Now, as for the curriculum, part of the research was devoted to identifying, researching ICT competences of teachers, which is the basis for using these digital instruments used in the educational process. And we divided them into 2 groups: university education, ICT competencies of university faculty and students, and in the teacher training system, by using these competencies, how they can further develop their competencies. It turned out that the situation is not, favorable. For instance, students they study Microsoft Office, Excel. They start studying anew the same topics in university as part of the computer science. And in teacher training system, the same subjects are taught. So what I'm trying to say is that maybe there are teachers that they somehow missed these courses, or they didn't really study well. But the standards should be built on the previous knowledge. So it would be like a chain. You could build upon the previous knowledge, and in order to effectively use the time of the students and the government funding. So the problem of university, in the inverse setting is possible to resolve. The initial steps, the recommendations of this research, I think our colleagues at Arabayev, they renamed the courses and they reworked the content. Those courses, we recommended the same to the National Teacher Training Institute to review the courses offered for on ICT competence of teachers. But this is in short. Thank you. There was a question here. Thank you, Tatiana Matokhina, Kyrgyz Academy of Education. First of all, thank you for a big sound analysis, very detailed analysis, very well presented. Thank you. And special thank you for the page 31, please, but page 31, the final line, and this, let me read out. The motivation to study among students in distance education is lower than in traditional learning. So they had to agree or disagree. 87% agreed or completely agreed. Can you imagine this? Be it digital or non-digital, they do not want to study. And our objective in the system of education is to teach to learn, not to teach them to use digital equipment, but just to teach them to learn. So this was very, disappointing to see this statement. So students admitted, they said they are not ready. Before that, we also had carried out a research in this regard. Lamбек Сембекович.
You know that a certain number of students expressed a concern. They expressed concern how difficult it was for them to go out to study and learn. And this line is very key. So now my first question, did you see it in the team as a big, as a huge problem which everyone has to pay attention? It's besides the fact that there is poor internet and computer and teachers, but this is about another thing, about low motivation of students. Did you discuss it? Because I didn't see it in the recommendations. And should we elaborate on that further? Thank you once more very much. Very good figures. I think Chinara Omrukulova will answer, and whoever wants to comment, they can join. We have to note that now the ICT skills is a meta competences. It's like basic reading competences like reading and arithmetics in Ministry of Education. If in the last 15 years or 20 years ago, they were paying big importance for ICT teachers, but now the situation is that every teacher has to master the skills of ICT. And since this stressful shift to distant learning was not provided by infrastructure, there was no single platform, and the teacher dealt as she or he could. And everyone provided this as he or she can. Someone wrote it on their walls, and others they were sending it through WhatsApp and various forms and creative ways. But because there was no single platform and no single vision of the way, if a teacher would have worked in a Google class, then she or he would know what she should provide. And as I said, the teachers found themselves unprepared, especially about pedagogics. They didn't know how to provide the motivation. They were not prepared methodologically and instrumentally. Therefore, we have such figures. But if you can see the findings of the research, you can see that the answers are rather controversial. Students say they don't want to return to traditional formats, but nevertheless, they said it would be good to learn the distant ways. Some 40% said they were very keen on further using the distant. in the beginning, they were very keen about using the new formats such as getting homeworks, but because the teachers did not have adequate time and skills to hold classes on that kind of format, and eventually students' motivation fell down. But we discussed these questions very in ample discussion. And when we spoke about the index, there were very big discussions. And speaking about the digital transformation, Mongolia went much ahead. It was acknowledged by the international standards. It was one of the leaders of digital transformation. In Mongolia, self-evaluation of students were some 10% higher than in Kyrgyzstan. And in Tajikistan, it is plus minus 10% lower than that of Mongolia. Thank you. One question, and then that's all. Okay, we have two questions from the hall, and all the others will be in the informal. Hello, my name is Aysulu, my online school Mugalim. Tatiana Alexeyevna, I also would say I would not learn online learning if it was on the same way as it was in the online, as it was during lockdown. Such a small comment. I would also like to say thank you to everyone is saying thank you because you are very fantastic. Academy of Education, and you are the first ones, and we say very big thank you. We don't forget this trust that you have placed in us. In this research, there is one point I would like to draw your attention. This is traced by answers of students and teachers. This is inability of students to learn autonomously. No matter which format, we have to make sure that students have to learn autonomously in the context of the modern world that we live in. Also, I think there would be, I think it would be more focus needed for that. Perhaps it was not the purpose of the research. Another point, I will say this as a parrot in all events. So the other point is, according to this research, those volunteer projects which were initiated during the pandemics, such as Sanarip Mugalim or online school Mugalim, I think these are very excellent cases which can be learned, taken over by Ministry of Education or RIPK, because we as volunteers, we carried over, but further, we work further, but we are working already. We are looking to work to increase the capacity of RIPK. Sanarip made a memorandum of understanding with RIPK. We also made a memorandum. We provide technical support to do classes for 10,000 students. We have about 10,000 students who are learning at the same time about functional literacy. Unfortunately, Mrs. Lira left, or she's here. I'd like to say once more that in such format, there should be public-private partnership, because there is ministry, there is RIPK, all projects and grants are spent for doing something in RIPK. Probably they don't have time to see all of that. Let us use the private sector who can help both the ministry and the internationals to relieve and increase the effectiveness and optimization, as we have done in the example of our two small organizations. Perhaps I would like to include it as a recommendation in this research so that we can shift to such a format which can make more effective impact on the project. Yes, we have included in the recommendation. Okay, we have two recommendations from our online participants. Let me read that out. Okay, I'll give you the floor now and then I read out. I don't have a question, but I have a comment. First, thank you very much for this grandiose, much work. Many facts were revealed. Speaking about innovations, not only new technologies, it can be methodology of teaching, it can be innovation in upbringing. We have I'd like to ask, did you pay attention to psychological aspect? Because any innovation, people are afraid of using innovations. They need support. And we've done a survey where we did a research in German university. It was found that safe environment is needed for learning when administration supports in which school the administration supports creative approaches, then teachers are more relaxed and free to apply any innovation, be it innovation or other ways. I think this point is very relevant. Technology can be okay. You can keep teaching, but when an environment is created, um, it's not that where teachers can use themselves to introduce creative methods without ministry, without anything, especially in remote areas. Teachers who were inventing new ways. For example, they were using WhatsApp. They came up with very incredible ways which helped the whole country to get out of the challenges of digitalization. This is the role of a director for supporting creativity in schools. Thank you we are very glad that ministry started to support such research because such findings are very necessary for shaping policy. Let me read the questions. They came from online participants. This is about research held in Tajikistan. This is the head of the research company, Jadid Shod Juraev. I'd like to turn to Tajikistan participants. You can address your questions to the Tajikistan team. Also, our Kyrgyzstan team, which have developed general instruments for all the research. The question is, have you done evaluation of ICT skills of Tajik teachers, and what was the sampling and percentage? And the second question was about evaluation of accessibility, functionality, and of the learning progress for digital platforms which are available in Tajikistan. Mihrigul, can you take this question? I would like to announce that presentation in Mongolia took place 16th of February and 27th of February. The presentation of findings about Tajikistan will take place. Ms. Childers, can I answer the question? The floor goes to Abdulwahid Saparov, country director for research in Tajikistan. Hello, dear participants. I saw the question. especially about the second question about availability, functionality, tracked the end user. Yes, we've done a test of research. If you are interested, I can send you the findings of our research about desktop research, where we wrote in detail which platforms exist and how are they being used in Tajikistan at the moment. I already sent the report about Tajikistan, about the research findings. If you need additional data, I'm ready to send. In this research I sent, it has all the answers that you have addressed in the first question. I'll speak shortly about the sampling. The common sampling in Tajikistan is 500 teachers. We planned such sampling. It was representative for getting such representative data for the whole country in Tajikistan. But however, thank you. Due to several questions, we couldn't have a survey in the Cubao or Badakhshan Autonomous Oblast, and therefore we don't have data for the whole country. We don't have a generalized data. However, in the report, we presented the data in the by regions: Dushanbe, Sogdiska, Khatlonska, and Rayon of Republican control. And this sampling was random. We chose the schools, and then in the schools, with random way, we chose the respondents. It was a rather large sampling. About the second question about the experience of teachers and ICT competences, we have measured, and we had data that over 2/3 of respondents in Tajikistan do not have experience in working in online. They don't have experience in online learning and developing courses. So over 2/3 of teachers do not have these ICT skills. And the findings vary by regions. Comparatively better situation is in Dushanbe. The most challenging problem was Sogd Oblast. I'd like to also answer Ayselu about recommendations. In the comparative analysis, we make a focus on useful, successful cooperation with public-private partnership. Your organization is a good case, and we, yes, indeed recommend it for further strengthening of such cooperation. On this note, we finish our questions and answers session. We started very good with music, and then we propose to end with music, and then we'll have a joint group picture, and then we finish on that. Thank you.
Ah, Nurcin.
I like